Skookums. Does that name strike terror into your heart? Well, that's the name of this monster. Now, this is actually the second snow-based shark movie that has been released within the last few years. This one, of course, is called Avalanche Sharks. However, there was a previous movie simply called Snow Shark, Ancient Snow Beast, I think it was called, and that was released in 2011. However, to add to the kind of confusion, in some countries, Avalanche Sharks is actually known as Snow Shark. So, Avalanche Shark is actually a slightly higher budget than the other film I mentioned, and it actually follows a kind of similar sort of setup than the original Jaws film. However, apart from going to the beach, the action now is on a kind of skiing mountain. And we kind of told some backstory. There's this Indian legend about this kind of shark that somehow sort of swam upstream in this kind of mountain and has now become some kind of sort of spirit monster. And we have this kind of group of sort of spring breakers going to this skiing mountain for their holiday, and of course some events have awoken this ancient sort of spirit shark or sharks, and they've come down to sort of snack on the holiday makers. And basically it sort of follows a different sort of groups, small groups of these sort of holiday makers as they discover this ancient horror. Now, like Jaws, basically we have this kind of the initial people that sort of find out this sort of shark exists, and of course no one else believes them, and we have this sort of the suits kind of want to keep the mountain open and don't want to close it because obviously it's holiday season, just like the original Jaws movie that it really kind of rips off, to be quite honest. Now, you might think, how the hell does a shark sort of swim around in snow? Well, it's never really explained, to be quite honest, but we kind of see this shark is almost like sort of translucent sometimes, a little bit like Ghost Shark, the other sort of shark, weird shark movie that's been out, and it kind of materialises into a sort of more corporeal form when it sort of attacks. But, you know, really no one's going to take this movie seriously, let's be honest. Now, and that's the thing with this film, it's obviously very, very silly, it's meant to be silly, it's not meant to be sort of taken too seriously. And because you can never really sort of get into it as a real sort of genuine horror film or anything like that, yes, I guess it is a bit of fun. You never really see the sort of sharks too much time, to be honest. They kind of just jump out the snow and sort of eat their victims real quick, and then they're kind of disappearing again. But the design that we do see, I guess, is a little bit more original than just your normal shot. They kind of have like a bobbled appearance to sort of make them, I guess, a point of difference. They kind of look a little bit more sort of textured than, say, a kind of regular shark. The effects are obviously, the majority of them are going to be CGI, and yes, the CGI is kind of cheap. The characters are all sort of very cliche. You know, we've got the kind of the dickhead sort of ski patrol guy who you know is going to get eaten at some point. You've kind of got the boss who's sort of unwilling to listen to anyone. We've got the ex-military sort of good guy, so to speak. The character who I found was the most amusing was the sheriff. He's such a sort of, I guess he's meant to be sort of somewhat sympathetic, but he just comes across as a bit of a wimp, I have to say. The acting is nothing special, to be honest. All the sort of the female cast are really just brought on because they're pretty and just sort of stand there and really don't do a hell of a lot, to be quite honest. And the majority of the acting is just kind of like standard sort of B-movie fare. I guess it's not terrible. There's certain sort of actors maybe who don't deliver their lines even on a kind of a B-movie standard, but the majority of them are kind of just what you're going to expect from this type of film.
She hurt?
They ripped her to pieces.
Who did?
The animals.
The animals?
Yeah.
What animals? Were they wolves?
I mean, why didn't I tell her? I mean, she was waiting for me. Why didn't I tell her that I love her?
Were they wolves? Is that what you saw?
Why didn't I? I mean, what's wrong with me?
This is one of these sort of films a little bit sort of forgettable. I think maybe this kind of fascination with these sort of weird sort of shark movies is kind of wearing a little bit thin now, I have to say. Obviously, sort of Sharknado is kind of the one everyone sort of thinks of, but now I think the kind of for me personally anyway, the fascination with this kind of like weird sort of subgenre that's kind of popped up is just wearing a little bit thin, and this one really doesn't sort of add anything too new. It just follows a very sort of basic sort of story structure. And although the sharks are really kind of the only thing that kind of really changes in the kind of the way these sort of sharks are kind of hunting, I guess, is the only point of difference here, and that kind of gets old pretty quick. I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 10. If you like this kind of thing, this is just going to be kind of up your street, but it really doesn't offer anything new to this sort of like weird little subgenre. What did you think of it? Have you seen it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.